Hello everybody and welcome back to another video, and of course Happy New Year everybody, happy 2025. 2024 is now officially behind us, not just the OWCS season, but in general, all of it is behind us now. We are officially in 2025, which means there is a lot of things to be excited about, and we have quite a lot of things to talk about because we got some big news drops recently in the Overwatch scene and OWCS scene. Lots of things. And this all dropped yesterday, so let's talk about it. The biggest thing, of course, and it's all tied together to this one thing, is that Overwatch is finally making its return to China on February 19th. This Overwatch Cavalry tweet. I'm just showing you this one because the actual stuff was posted in Chinese on the Chinese Overwatch website. I don't know about any of you. I don't know Chinese. So this is the best thing I can do. So with the return of Overwatch to China, of course, the most logical next step is the return of Overwatch Esports to China. And that is happening with the OWCS China stage being introduced in 2025, starting in stage 1. Now, as far as I know, they haven't had any blog posts or anything like that. It's just very much a hey, this is what's happening. Here you go. Have fun. There hasn't been a big announcement about here's exactly what's happening with China and all that kind of stuff. So I think my guess is that the reason why China is its own dedicated region, because it is a dedicated region, it is separate from Asia, it's its own stage, is because of the scheduling and the fact that it starts later. And I wonder if that's also the reason why we'll talk about the live events, but the first live event is in China. And I wonder if part of that is that because China's starting later, they want to have the other regions travel to China because the Chinese tournament and the Chinese teams might not qualify until later because they are starting later due to the game not being available until February, and the rest of the world is starting the season in January. That's not a thing that's been confirmed. That's just me kind of speculating and thinking about what that might mean. But I'm hopeful that OWCS China does well. Obviously, the game has not been playable there for 2 years now. Is that how long it's been? I don't even remember when it all went down. But once again, Esports is the modern Hangzhou Spark. We saw them play in EWC last year. They're always, they're such a fun team. That is one of my favorite teams in the history of Overwatch. I loved that roster. That, Leave, Shy, Gushui, Monk, Langsa, that core was so good and so incredible to watch. I'm so happy that we're going to see that team again. Hopefully, they are still together. I want to say the current iteration has more, maybe it is just 7 players. So no pieces on the current roster, but I think it's now Mew / Zernia / Yveltal on the support role. And then Langsa was on the roster. They had another DPS player who I wasn't familiar with. So we'll see what their final roster is. But I love that team so much. That's one of my favorite teams to watch. I'm happy they're back. They'll be fun to watch, especially when you can do hero bans and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to kind of see what the regions do differently in those different hero ban environments, because it'll be different, I think, from team to team, region to region, to see kind of what teams prioritize when they're doing their bans. And we know that Asia is really big, and specifically Korea is very big on dive. China is also pretty big on dive. That, at least once again in particular, is very good on dive. But they've always had a little bit of kind of different looks there. And when you all kind of are separate and come together in a hero bans environment, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that works when all is said and done. But I figure, I already talked about it. I already spoiled it for you. We got the announcement of where the 3 live events will be happening in 2025. As you can see here, they will be happening. The first one is the Champions Clash, taking place in April in the Hangzhou Esports Center in Hangzhou, China. Then there's the Mid-Season Championship in July, which is part of Esports World Cup at Boulevard City in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And then the World Finals will once again be happening in November at DreamHack Stockholm in the Stockholmsassen. So, an interesting pick of events. I think it's somewhat disappointing, the distribution that we have of events. I think China getting an event is really cool. I'm very happy that they're going back to China or going to China for an event. You know, China never really got the benefits of live events in the Overwatch League. You know, COVID hit China very hard. That was the region that was supposed, you know, there's supposed to be a whole bunch of international travel. There's supposed to be a bunch of homestands in China. Teams were going to go on these like Chinese boot camps, basically. They were going to go on like a Chinese world tour, which I guess isn't a world tour, but they were going to go, you know, they were going to play, you know, in Shanghai, in Hangzhou, in Guangzhou, in Chengdu, right? Like, teams are going to go to China for like a month and just play, you know, multiple tournaments in China. And then it never came to be because of COVID, and the season kind of changed. And the Chinese region never really made it back to that kind of height from that. They never really recovered. So I'm really glad that we're getting an event in China. I think it's really cool. And like I said, I think there's a chance that part of the reason why the first event is in China is because the Chinese teams are likely to qualify later because their season's probably going to be in a little bit of a different scheduling because of when they're starting. So makes sense, I think, to start there. I mentioned in my video talking about the 2024 format that I was pretty sure, based on whisperings and mumblings and things that I'd been hearing from people in the community, that the mid-season tournament was going to be happening at Esports World Cup. That is confirmed to be where it's happening. I don't love that. I'm absolutely not a huge fan of Esports World Cup. I'd rather them not have tournaments there, but it is what it is. I was much more okay with last year having them be separate events and not bringing them together. So we'll see what happens with the mid-season championship. But I think it's somewhat disappointing, quite a bit disappointing, let's be fair. I heard it was a great tournament last year. I did not watch it. And I kind of wish that the OWCS would continue to stay separate. But I had a feeling this is where things were going to go, and we'll see what happens. But that is an EMEA LAN, which is interesting because we're getting 2 LANs in EMEA by having this finals in DreamHack Stockholm again. I'll be honest, the only LAN here that really excites me is the one in China. Esports World Cup, it has nothing to do with the tournament format and everything to do with the location and the, to be fair, the baggage all around it. With Stockholm, it's really just, I don't love the DreamHack scheduling. The fact that it's only 3 days is the reason why these tournaments, last year, the tournaments felt so kind of small. They didn't feel big. They didn't feel grand. You know, they only had 8 teams qualifying for the tournaments last year. Some of it was, I think, the monetary cost of getting teams over there was very expensive. But I think the other part of it was just the fact that they only had the 3 days. And so in order to get all the games in on their schedule, they had to kind of cut it back. So they couldn't do like a 12-team tournament when they only had those handful of days, which I think is disappointing. And I'm not in love with that. And so I wish they would do their own tournament for the World Finals in particular. Like, to me, it feels like there is a very real possibility that the biggest tournament this year is the mid-season one. Like, that's going to have probably the biggest prize pool, and it's probably going to have more teams than the other tournaments because, as you can see in this tweet that you're seeing, the first live event, Champions Clash, is going to have 8 teams total, 2 from each region. So 2 from Asia, 2 from China, 2 from EMEA, 2 from North America. I would imagine the same will be true in Stockholm as well. It'll be 8 teams. And then we could have there was 16 teams at Esports World Cup last year, if memory serves me correctly. I think it probably would not be that many this time around, because that would be 4 from each region, which seems like a lot. It might be 12. But if that's the case, the mid-season tournament is the bigger one. It's going to have the bigger prize pool, most likely, and it's going to have more teams competing. So it's going to feel like the bigger event. So unless they can find a way to have 12 teams compete at the World Finals, I just think that we're going to see an event where, like, the teams are not going to care about the finals at the end of the year. The finals don't matter at that point if it's a smaller event than the mid-season championship. It just, to me, doesn't inspire me to be like, this is a great event where everything is firing on all cylinders. This is the really good parts of it. This is why this whole thing is going the way it's going. We're so excited because we're having all these big events, and it's like, oh no, here's like 2 pretty middling-sized events, and then the big event is the one in the middle of the year. I get it. It's money. It's finances. There's reasons why it is much easier to have your events at something like EWC and at DreamHack, because those are organizers who are putting a lot of the stuff together. So a lot of the logistics you don't have to worry about. Some of the costs you don't have to worry about. You're not paying for the venue. You're not, the venue is already there. It's a thing that's being paid for already. And so I understand the reason for that. But I just think it's still disappointing, the size that we're seeing, the way that EWC is going to overshadow the rest of the season is just very unfortunate in my opinion. And we're seeing the just, in my opinion, slow kind of cutting back of so much of Overwatch Esports, and it's just getting to the point where these tournaments are starting to feel small. And at some point, if your biggest tournaments are smaller than like your regional tournaments, that's a pretty bad sign, I think. And so we'll see what happens. Hopefully the later tournaments will have more teams. Like I said, who knows? Maybe DreamHack Stockholm, they can do a thing on Thursday where they do like an early day where they kind of have like the first round of games, where like the bottom 4 teams. Maybe it's just like I'd be okay. This is maybe a hot take, but I'd be okay if it was 12 teams and on Thursday you had 4 games, and if you lose those games on the first day, you're just out. And then it's double elimination for the rest of the tournament. But maybe it's a hot take, but I don't really think that you need to do double elimination for the whole tournament. If it's like the beginning of it is like, we're going to deal with some of these other teams. There are obviously some things there, because if you have to play like the third best team, and if you have to play the third best team in Korea, but it would be all the 3 seeds anyway. In that, all the 3 seeds would have to play higher teams, because there's be 4 3 seeds, so it'd be like the 3 versus the 2 from another region. But if you have to play the third best team from Korea and you're the second best team from like North America, you're gonna lose. So yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not the one organizing the tournaments. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. It's New Year's, okay? I'm just running. I'm blabbing. I'm talking about things. It's all over the place. But like I said, let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on everything. What you think about it. Are you excited for China to be back? Are you excited for these events? Are you excited for where these events are happening? No NA is a little weird, but it is what it is. No Korea is also weird. But Korea, I think, has LAN events all year. So I guess they have them, just not for this. So any and all thoughts you have, let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing. Your support does help out a bunch with the channel. Thank you all once again. Hope you're all staying safe, staying healthy, and enjoying this new year. And until next time, bye-bye.